Amina had always been a careful driver. She knew the streets well, and she was careful to follow all the traffic rules. That night was no different. She was coming home after visiting a friend in a part of town she knew well. It was late, but the road was quiet. The moon shone softly in the sky, and Amina felt tired but happy after a good evening. As she drove down the empty street, she saw flashing lights behind her. A police car was signaling for her to pull over. Amina slowed her car and carefully moved to the side of the road. She wondered what she might have done wrong. She looked around, but did not see any reason for a stop. There was no broken traffic light, no sign she missed. She felt calm, but also a little nervous. The police car stopped behind her, and a man in a uniform got out. He walked toward her car quickly. Amina rolled down her window, ready to talk. The officer's face was serious, and his eyes were sharp. She noticed that his hand was near his belt, where his gun was kept. Before she could say anything, the officer pulled out his gun and pointed it at her. Amina's heart jumped. She felt shocked and scared, but she did not panic. She knew that. Staying calm was important. She slowly raised her hands to show she was not a threat. Her voice was soft but clear when she said, "Please, I'm just driving home." "Is there a problem?" The officer did not answer her right away. Instead, he kept his gun pointed and told her to step out of the car. Amina obeyed slowly, careful not to make sudden moves. She felt the eyes of some people who had come outside their homes to see what was happening. A few had already started filming the scene with their phones. Amina tried to understand why the officer was acting this way. She did not want to argue or cause trouble. She just wanted to be safe. Her mind raced with questions. Was it because of her skin color? Was it because she was alone at night? She did not want to believe it, but the fear was real. The officer asked her some questions. He wanted to know where she was going and why she was driving at that hour. Amina answered politely, telling the truth. She said she had been visiting a friend and was heading home. She explained she had done nothing wrong. But the officer seemed angry and did not listen well. Nearby neighbors were watching silently. Some whispered to each other, worried about what they saw. Amina's voice was steady, even though she felt small and afraid. She remembered what her mother told her. Always keep your hands visible and speak softly with police. Do not argue. The officer still pointed the gun, but he did not use it. Amina slowly moved her hands in front of her so he could see them clearly. She tried to keep eye contact, but not in a challenging way. She hoped he would understand she was not dangerous. After a few minutes, the officer lowered the gun a little, but still held it in his hand. Amina saw the tension in his face. She wondered if someone had called the police to report her for something. She wished she knew why she was being treated this way. Amina's phone was still inside the car. She knew that recording this moment could help her later, but the officer was watching closely. She decided it was best to keep calm and wait for a chance. Suddenly, she heard a soft beep. It was her phone receiving a message. She carefully reached into her pocket and took it out slowly. The officer watched her move, but she spoke gently. "I just want to call someone to let them know I'm okay." The officer nodded but kept his eyes on her. Amina quickly dialed a number she trusted. Her friend answered right away. Amina whispered, "The situation?" She told her friend that a police officer had stopped her and was pointing a gun. She said she felt scared, but was trying to stay calm. Her friend told her to keep the phone near and stay on the line. The friend also said to keep recording if she could. Amina's hands trembled slightly, but she nodded even though the officer could not see. She did not want to lose control. The minutes passed slowly. The officer asked for her driver's license and car registration. Amina gave them to him carefully. She kept her voice soft and polite. She wanted to avoid any problems. People walking their dogs or coming home from work started to gather nearby. Some asked if everything was okay. Others called local community groups to alert them about the situation. The story was starting to spread quietly. Amina was thinking about how many times she had heard stories about police treating black people unfairly. She had hoped it would never happen to her. But now she was living that moment. She did not want to be a victim. She wanted to be heard. Suddenly, a neighbor stepped outside and said loudly, "Hey, is everything okay here?" The officer turned to look, then back to Amina. The neighbor said calmly, Please be careful. We don't want any trouble." The officer said nothing and kept watching Amina closely. She knew she had to be patient. She took a deep breath and said, "I just want to go home safely." More people took out their phones and started filming. Amina's friend on the phone told her to stay strong and that help was on the way. Amina nodded quietly. The moment felt heavy, but she held her head high. Finally, the officer lowered his gun completely and said, "You can go now." Amina thanked him politely and got back into her car. She locked the doors and started the engine slowly as she drove away. She looked in the rearview mirror and saw the officer watching her. She felt a mix of relief and sadness.
Ow.
She was safe for now, but she knew this story was bigger than her. One night, Amina made a brave choice. She stayed calm, made a call, and recorded what happened. It was the start of something that would change her life and the lives of many others in her community. After Amina hung up the phone, her friend Maya could not stop thinking about what had just happened. Maya knew Amina was strong and smart, but this kind of situation was serious. She felt worried for her friend, but also knew that something had to be done. Maya wanted to help Amina and make sure that the officer's behavior did not go unnoticed. Maya quickly shared the video that Amina had recorded on her phone. She posted it on social media, on sites like Facebook and Twitter, with a short message explaining what had happened. The video showed clearly the police officer pointing a gun at Amina without a clear reason. Many people watched the video and were shocked. They could see how scared Amina was and how the officer's actions did not seem fair. As the video spread, messages started coming in from all over. Some people sent words of support to Amina and Maya. Others shared their own stories of similar experiences. It was clear that this was not just about one person. Many in the community understood that this kind of treatment happened too often, and they wanted to stand together to say, "Enough is enough." Meanwhile, Amina stayed at home, feeling a mix of emotions. She was scared, but also proud. She had stayed calm during the stop, and now she was speaking up. Her family and close friends gathered around to support her. They listened as she told her story again and again. She explained how the officer's behavior made her feel small, scared, and treated differently because of her skin color. Amina also talked about how important it was to remain calm and not give in to fear. She wanted other people, especially young black women, to know that they should trust themselves and find safe ways to protect themselves if something like this happened to them at the same time. Maya contacted a local civil rights group. This group was known for helping people who faced unfair treatment and discrimination. Maya explained the situation and sent them the video and messages from social media. The group quickly saw how serious the case was. They knew that police officers should protect and serve everyone equally, not make people feel afraid or unsafe. The civil rights group offered to help Amina. They said they would work to make sure the officer was held accountable and that the community's voice was heard. They also promised to support Amina through any legal or personal challenges she might face in the days that followed. The story continued to grow. Local news outlets picked it up, interviewing Amina and Maya. Amina spoke carefully and honestly. She wanted people to understand that this was not just about one bad moment, but about a bigger problem that needed to change, she told the reporters. "I was just driving home. I did nothing wrong. But the way I was treated showed me that there is still work to do for fairness and respect." Her words moved many people. Some who had never thought about the experience of black women with the police started to listen. The police department at first tried to say the officer was following rules and doing his job. They said the stop was routine and that the officer acted safely. But the video showed a different story. The public began to ask questions. How could pointing a gun at someone who was calm and cooperating be considered safe? Why was Amina treated differently? Community leaders organized peaceful meetings to talk about the incident. They invited police officials, city leaders, and local residents to come together. They wanted to hear from everyone and find ways to improve trust and fairness. Amina was invited to speak at one meeting. She stood in front of the crowd and shared her story. Her voice was steady and her message was clear. We need respect, We need fairness. We need to be seen as human beings. More people joined the cause. Local pastors, teachers, and business owners spoke up. They showed support by attending meetings and sharing messages of peace and justice. The city started to feel hope that change could happen. Meanwhile, Amina's phone continued to ring with calls from people who wanted to help. Some were lawyers offering advice. Others were volunteers ready to stand by her side. Amina felt the power of community. Even though the night with the officer was hard, she was no longer alone. Maya helped organize a fundraiser to support Amina and her family. The money was to help pay for legal costs and other needs. People gave what they could. The fundraiser was a success, showing that many cared deeply about justice. While all this was happening, the officer involved was told to stop working on the police force temporarily. The police department said they would investigate what happened. Amina and her supporters waited patiently. They wanted to see fairness in action. The civil rights group worked with the police department and city leaders. They asked for transparency. They asked for new training programs to teach officers how to treat everyone with respect and kindness. They asked for better ways to handle stops so no one would feel afraid. Amina became a quiet leader in her community. She spoke at schools and churches about courage and dignity. She encouraged others to use their voices and stand up for what is right. Her story inspired many people to believe in change. In the background, the city council started discussing new laws to protect citizens during police stops. They wanted to make sure no one would ever be treated unfairly like Amina. The conversations were long and sometimes difficult. But everyone agreed that safety and respect must come first. Through it all, Amina stayed strong. She focused on healing and helping others. As she found new friends and allies who cared about justice and peace. Her phone call that night was more than just a message to a friend. It was the start of a movement. People learned that one person's voice could make a difference. One video could change how a community sees fairness. One phone call could bring hope and justice. The story of Amina and the police officer quickly became a strong topic in her community. People were talking about it everywhere, at local shops, in schools, at churches, and in families. The video showed clearly how the officer had pointed a gun at Amina without a clear reason. Many people felt this was unfair and wanted to see justice done. Community leaders saw that people were upset but also hopeful. They wanted to help turn that energy into positive action. A group of local activists began planning peaceful gatherings and events to show support for Amina and to demand fair treatment for everyone, no matter their skin color. The gatherings were calm and respectful. People carried signs that said things like respect for all, justice for Amina, and end racism now. At these meetings, speakers talked about the importance of equality and fairness. They shared stories from their own lives about times when they or people they knew were treated unfairly. Amina was invited to speak at one of these gatherings. Many people came to hear her story in person. When she stood in front of the crowd, she felt nervous, but also strong. She told everyone about the night the officer stopped her. She explained how scared she felt when the gun was pointed at her. But she also shared how important it was to stay calm and to speak out after the event. Her words moved many people. Some had never thought deeply about the fear that many black people feel during police stops. Hearing Amina's story made them understand better, she said. I want us all to be safe when we see the police. We want to be treated with respect, just like anyone else. The peaceful gatherings helped build trust among neighbors. People from different backgrounds came together to support Amina and each other. The community felt stronger. They knew that working together was the best way to make a difference. Local news reporters covered the gatherings, showing pictures and videos on TV and online. This helped the story reach even more people beyond Amina's neighborhood. Viewers sent messages of support and shared their own ideas for change. At the same time, the police department faced more questions. Some officers were upset about how one of their own had acted. Others wanted to learn from the experience to do better. Police leaders promised to look closely at the case, to improve training for all officers. City officials joined the conversation. 2. The mayor and city council members met with community leaders to listen and learn. They talked about ways to improve the relationship between the police and the people they serve. They agreed that everyone should feel safe and respected. part of the efforts to improve, the city started workshops for police officers. These classes focused on fairness, respect, and understanding different cultures. Officers learned how to handle stops more carefully so that no one would feel threatened. The city hoped these steps would prevent future incidents like Amina's. Meanwhile, Amina kept sharing her story. She spoke at schools, telling young people about courage and calmness in difficult times. She said, "If you ever feel scared, remember to stay calm and tell someone you trust. Your voice matters." Teachers and students appreciated hearing her, and he said it helped them think about how important it is to treat everyone fairly. Some schools even invited local police officers to join discussions with students so they could learn from each other. In her personal life, Amina felt the support from her family and friends more than ever. They helped her stay strong when things were hard. Sometimes she felt tired from all the attention and questions, but she knew she was making a difference. Community groups helped by organizing activities for families, like cleanup days and art projects, focused on unity and respect. These events brought joy and hope, showing that change could be peaceful and positive. The civil rights group working with Amina also helped other people who had faced unfair treatment. They shared the story widely to show how important it was to speak up and seek help. They encouraged people not to be silent when things are wrong. As the investigation into the officer continued, the community waited patiently for justice. They knew change takes time. They felt hopeful because of the growing support and the steps being taken. Some neighbors talked about starting a community watch program to help keep their streets safe and friendly. They wanted to work with the police in a way that built trust. They believed safety comes from understanding and cooperation, one local pastor said. This story reminds us all that we must see each other as family. When we do, we can heal and grow together. His words touched many hearts. Amina's story was no longer just about her. It was about a community standing up for fairness, about neighbors coming together, and about hope for a better future. It showed how one person's courage could inspire many. The days went by, and the city felt a change. People smiled more at each other. They talked about kindness and respect. The police officers who took the new training promised to remember that every person deserves dignity. Amina felt proud but humble. She said, "I am just one voice, but I am glad to be heard. I want everyone to know they matter." The peaceful gatherings continued, with new faces joining each time. The movement grew stronger, showing that even difficult moments could lead to hope and progress in the end. The community learned that by standing together, listening to each other, and working for fairness, they could build a safer, kinder place for everyone. As the story of Amina and the officer gained attention, the city's police department began a formal investigation. This was a serious step, and many people watched closely to see what would happen next. The investigation aimed to find out exactly what the officer did and whether his actions followed the rules and laws that protect everyone's rights. The police chief spoke publicly about the investigation. He said that all officers must treat citizens with respect and fairness, no matter who they are. He promised the investigation would be fair and transparent. The community wanted to believe him, but many people still felt nervous. They had seen cases before where investigations seemed slow or unfair. The police officer involved was placed on temporary leave. This meant he would not work or wear his uniform during the investigation. The department said this was to allow the process to be calm and unbiased. It also showed that they were taking the matter seriously. The city hired an independent group of investigators to help. These investigators were not part of the police department. Their job was to look at the facts carefully and honestly. Reviewed the video of the incident, talked to witnesses, and asked the officer to explain his actions. The video was clear and showed that the officer had pointed his gun at Amina when she was calm and cooperating. Witnesses who had been nearby also shared what they saw. Some neighbors said they felt afraid watching the officer act in this way. They hoped the investigation would stop such incidents in the future. Amina was asked to share her story again, this time with the investigators. She answered questions honestly and calmly. She said she understood the officer's job was difficult, but she hoped police would learn to handle situations without making people scared. She wanted officers to respect everyone equally. Her courage during this process inspired many. People admired how she stayed strong and spoke her truth. The civil rights group continued to support her, making sure her voice was heard. While the investigation moved forward, lawyers began preparing for possible legal action. They wanted to ensure that if the officer was found to have acted wrongly, there would be consequences. They also worked to make sure Amina's rights were protected throughout the process. The police department announced new training programs for all officers. These programs focused on respect, understanding, and communication. Officers learned how to recognize their own biases and how to treat every person fairly. The training included role-playing and discussions about real-life situations. Community members were invited to participate in some training sessions. This allowed people to share their experiences directly with officers, and he said this helped build better understanding and trust. Meanwhile, the city council worked on new policies to improve policing. They looked at rules about when and how officers can use their weapons. The goal was to reduce the chance of unnecessary fear or harm during police stops. Public meetings were held where citizens could ask questions and give suggestions. These meetings were open to everyone. Many attended, showing how important this issue was for the whole community. Amina's story was often part of these discussions. People used it as an example of why change was needed. Experience helped shape new ideas about how to keep everyone safe and respected. Some officers also spoke out. They said they wanted to serve their community better. They said training and listening to citizens made them understand their role more deeply at the same time. Media outlets continued to follow the case. Journalists reported on the investigation. In the city's efforts to improve policing, this kept the public informed and reminded officials that the community was watching in her daily life. Amina kept focusing on healing and helping others. She spoke at community centers and schools, sharing her story and encouraging dialogue. She said, "We all want peace. When we listen and respect each other, we create a better world." Her message reached many people, including young adults, who wanted to make a difference. They formed groups to discuss equality and respect, inspired by Amina's courage. As weeks passed, the independent investigation completed its report. It concluded that the officer had not handled the situation properly. The officer's use of his gun was not justified, especially since Amina was cooperating and posed no threat. This report was shared with the police department and city officials. It recommended that the officer face disciplinary actions and that the department continue improving training and policies. The city announced that the officer would be suspended from the force permanently. This decision showed the city's commitment to fairness and justice. It also sent a message that no one is above the law, and everyone must be held accountable. Community members welcomed the decision, but said they would keep working to prevent future problems. They understood that one case was not the end, but a beginning. The city continued to invest in community programs aimed at building trust between police and citizens. These programs included neighborhood events, workshops, and youth activities designed to bring people together. Amina's role in all this was important. She remained a symbol of hope and courage. She reminded people that standing up for fairness, even when it is hard, can lead to real change. Her family celebrated the outcome but also remembered the hard moments. They were proud of her strength and the way she used her experience to help others. The story showed that when people come together, neighbors, leaders, police, and citizens, they can make their community better. It was a lesson in respect, justice, and the power of a single voice to start a movement. Amina hoped her experience would inspire more kindness and fairness in the world. She said no one should be afraid when they see a police officer. We all deserve respect and dignity. City listened, and the change had begun. ChatGPT said, Amina's story did not end with the officer's suspension. It became a symbol of hope and change, not only in her community, but beyond. After months of hard work, speaking engagements, and meetings, Amina found herself at the center of a movement that was about much more than just one night. People everywhere began to talk openly about fairness and respect. They realized that the story of Amina was not unique. Many others had faced similar moments of fear and unfair treatment. But now, with Amina's courage shining as an example, they felt empowered to speak out and demand better. Amina continued to visit schools and community centers, she told her story in simple words that everyone could understand. She said, "It is not easy to stand up when you are scared. But when we speak the truth, we bring light to dark places." Her message touched many hearts, inspiring young and old alike. Local leaders listened carefully. They saw how much support Amina had and how her story brought people together. The city started new programs focused on respect, fairness, and education. They worked with police officers to build stronger relationships with the community. One important change was the creation of a community advisory board. This board included citizens, police officers, and city officials. They met regularly to discuss concerns and find ways to improve trust. Amina was invited to join as a voice for the people. She accepted, wanting to make sure the work continued. The police department also launched new training programs based on lessons learned from Amina's case. These programs taught officers how to better understand different cultures, recognize their own biases, and communicate with kindness and patience. Many officers said the training helped them see their jobs in a new way. Amina's story inspired other cities too. News of the changes spread, and communities across the country began looking for ways to improve their own relationships with the police. Some invited Amina to speak, and she gladly shared her experiences and the hope she had found. Despite all the attention, Amina stayed humble. She knew that real change takes time and effort from many people. She continued working with community groups and volunteers who wanted to make a difference. She often said, "Change is not just about one person or one moment. It is about all of us working together." Her family remained her strongest support. They celebrated her courage and the way she used her story to help others. They reminded her to take time to rest and care for herself too. Through her journey, Amina learned many things. She learned about the power of calmness in difficult moments. She learned how important it is to have a support system. Most of all, she learned that one phone call and one voice can make a big difference. People in her community looked at her differently now. They saw her not just as a victim, but as a leader and a beacon of hope. Children said they wanted to be brave like Amina. Parents felt hopeful that their children would grow up in a kinder world. The police department's relationship with the community slowly improved. Officers and citizens found ways to listen and understand each other better. There were still challenges, but the steps taken after Amina's story gave many hope for a better future. Amina herself felt proud but never forgot the fear she once had. She knew many still faced those fears every day. That kept her motivated to keep speaking and working for change. She also started writing a journal to help others who might be scared or hurt. In it, she shared her feelings and her advice. She hoped the journal would give comfort and strength to anyone facing hard times. One day, the city held a special event to celebrate the progress made. People gathered in a park to hear speeches, share stories, and enjoy music. Amina was invited to speak. She stood before a crowd filled with hope and promise. She said, "This journey was not easy, but it was worth it. Together, we showed that respect and kindness can change lives. Let us keep working so that every person feels safe and valued." The crowd applauded warmly. Many felt inspired to continue the work, knowing that change is possible when people stand together. Amina's story reminds us that even in the face of fear and injustice, courage and calmness can light the way. One woman's phone call was the start of a journey toward justice, respect, and hope. Her bravery continues to inspire people to speak up, listen, and build communities where everyone is treated with dignity. And that is a story worth telling again and again.